We had exclusive use of the lands and the waters through which the fish flowed.
Everything on the land was owned by a clan.
They had better armament, actually, in that era than the Russians did.
There were signs up, no Indians and dogs allowed.
Here is an Indian moving in, playing a white political game, and being in control. What are you going to do about that?
When my people tell a story, we begin by saying we have been here since time immemorial, since the days when Raven made this land for us. He made our temperate rainy forest teem with edible plants and animals. Our streams and bays filled with salmon each summer. The place overflowed with life and spirits. Foreigners came to our homeland, but we resisted them for more than a century. Eventually, however, there were just too many of them, with great ships and cannons. The things that saved us were those that made us great in the old days: our fiercely competitive pride, our intelligence, and ability to adapt. So we fought a new kind of battle for survival with new weapons: money, lawyers, and votes. We understood this new battle instinctively, for even in our ancient warrior days, we were always masters of commerce, politics, and law. The Russians knew nothing of our laws when they returned in 1799.
In that interim, the Tlingit and the Haida were dealing with the fur traders. One of the major acquisitions that the Tlingits had from the fur traders, especially the American fur traders, were guns, muskets, cannons. They had better armament, actually, in that era than the Russians did. They would be glad to trade furs with Russians, or with English, or with Americans, or with French. They respected trade. That's what the Tlingits were.
The Russians built their trading post, New Archangel, near the stronghold of the Kiksadi clan. The natives called their village Shiatika, today known as Sitka. The Russians accepted native law outside their stockade walls, and the Kiksadis rarely went inside. It was an uneasy peace of mutual trading interest until 1802.
It had deteriorated to a point of adversaries because the Russians enlarged the fort far bigger than, the trading posts we thought they were authorized to do. In fact, they came to regard that portion of the land as their own.
That attitude offended the Kiksadis, so they appointed a war chief named Katlian and made a battle plan with other villages. Simultaneously, they attacked New Archangel and other Russian outposts throughout the archipelago. They littered the beach with their enemies' corpses. The Tlingits' victory lasted for only 2 years. In 1804, the Russians returned, this time with a warship and 150 Aleut fighters armed with muskets. The Tlingits retreated from Shiatika, and the Russians built a new, stronger fortress there. The Tlingits resumed a wary peace with the Russians until 1805, when a Russian party foolishly took over a Tlingit salmon stream at Yakutat.
There were protests by the Tlingits against the Russian use of their salmon streams. It was basically theft as far as the Tlingits were concerned. They would be glad to trade, but they could not tolerate it. It was just total anathema under their law that someone would come in and take their fish.
So the Tlingits burned the Russian fort at Yakutat and killed the entire garrison. In time, New Archangel grew into a small city with European refinements, a library, and a theater. The Russians made it their new capital for Russian America, and visiting American and British sea captains called it Paris of the Pacific.
There was a Russian official that visited Alaska. He looked at the situation and said basically that we do not control the situation here. When we want fish, when we want meat, when we want wood, we have to go to the Tlingits. We have not controlled Southeast Alaska at all. It was one of the reasons, in fact, that Russia decided to sell Alaska.
On October 18, 1867, the Tlingits witnessed from their canoes what to them was a preposterous transaction. The American Stars and Stripes replaced the Tsar's double-headed eagle atop the Russian governor's mansion.
My aunt, the one that lived to be 106 years old, she was there when it took place, and they could not understand what the fuss was about, because the Russians only owned what was inside the stockade. They didn't dare go out, and no individual could walk around outside the stockade. So they couldn't understand why they were claiming to sell all of Alaska when all they had was what was inside the fort.
The natives could not foresee that America would bring an end to the world they had known since time immemorial. It would also take courage. William Paul called for a show of hands. The Alaska Native Brotherhood and the Alaska Native Sisterhood voted unanimously to sue the United States of America for taking their land and fish.